Hey guys, so in today's video, I wanted to give you a breakdown of every single trade that we took inside of the VIP group just this week. Now, this will give you great insights into exactly what it's like to be a full-time trader, and it will also show you why sticking to one strategy will yield you much greater results than jumping from strategy to strategy. So let's jump into the VIP group so that you can get an idea of exactly what we done this past week. Guys, so here we are inside of the VIP Discord. Now, this is exactly where I send all of my trades every single day for everyone in the VIP to be able to take with me. Now, if you're not part of the VIP group, then click that link down in the description, become part of the community, and come and say hi. Now, as for the signals results, we're actually just closed out this week for a plus 2% gain. Last week, we had a plus 4% gain. And at the beginning of this month, we had a 1.5% gain. So at the moment, we are up 7.5% for the month. And we've still got just over a week left in this month to go. So let's see how we can wrap that up. But let's jump straight into breaking down the first trade of the week, which was actually this US oil buy limit. Now, on Monday, there was no trade, so we didn't end up taking anything on the charts. And on Tuesday, we ended up getting this US oil buy limit. So if we jump onto the charts, I'll show you exactly why we ended up taking this trade. This unfortunately did end up being a stop loss. However, what I'll do is I'll replay the charts to give you an understanding into exactly why we took this trade. So if we jump up to the hourly, what we can see is that price was bullish, right? Price was creating a series of higher highs and higher lows. And then we had put in this liquidity and we had the extreme of this range, which was still left unmitigated. So once we had identified that this was our extreme demand zone of this range, we waited patiently for price to come and tap into this area of demand, keep the Asia lows, give us a 5-minute market structure shift so that we can then take it to the Asia highs for a nice and simple trade. However, what actually ended up happening was that price tapped into our area of demand. And if we go down to the 5-minute, we can see that right here was 7 o'clock, which means the Asia lows have just been swept. Once we swept the Asia lows, price then started to create a series of lower lows and lower highs. We put in this lower high and this lower low right here. Therefore, our anticipation is that once we break this lower high and we put in this higher high, we should get a higher low and then a continuation higher, right? So once we saw that and we saw that we had this market structure shift right here, I then actually sent this into the VIP group. And from there, as we can see, price comes, taps us into that fair value gap that was left unmitigated. And then from there, price then just runs straight to our stop loss. So an unfortunate way to start the week, but it is what it is. So Monday, there was no trades. We looked at the markets, there just wasn't the greatest of setups, so we decided not to take any trades. Tuesday, we had the US oil buy limit, and as good as that setup was, it ended up being a stop loss. So let's jump into Wednesday to see exactly what happened. We actually ended up taking this US 30 buy limit that we have right here. So let's jump onto the chart. So again, I can give you a breakdown into exactly why we took this trade. We can see US 30 is super bullish. We've just put in this higher low, higher high, and then we were anticipating a higher low and then a continuation of that trend. Therefore, we had identified this demand zone where we were anticipating price to come into, sweep the Asia lows, give us a 5-minute market structure shift, and then we would be chasing that trade to the Asia highs. So once price then came and tapped into our demand zone, we then dropped down to the 5-minute. And on the 5-minute, what we can see is that right here, we had the Asia lows right here. Price then came, swept the Asia lows with a lot of volume, tapped into this demand zone, and then the volume started to dry up. As you can see, we had a wick rejection there, we had a wick rejection there. So once we started to see this, we identified this as our lower low, lower high, and then our lower low. Therefore, our anticipation is that once we break this lower high right here, and we put in a higher high, we then take our entry at the higher low so that we can then ride it to a high. So with that anticipation in mind, we patiently waited for a market structure shift, which we ended up getting right there, as we can see. We then identified the area which actually caused the market structure shift was right here. And this is exactly where we took our entry. So as we can see, price then comes down, taps us straight into this trade, and then immediately just starts chopping around and consolidating. So once we started seeing this consolidation, we thought that it was just going to build up all of this consolidation, potentially sweep it, and then give us that run straight to our take profit. So that was the anticipation, but unfortunately, instead of sweeping, price swept our stop loss. How unfortunate. We've had a missed trade on Monday, stop loss on Tuesday, and another stop loss on Wednesday. Can it get any better? Thursday, we ended up taking this GU sell limit. Now, as we can see, we actually hit full TP for a take profit of plus 3%, putting us at a plus 1% gain for the entire week. So as we can see, this is the screenshot of the full trade playing out. This was the screenshot before the trade actually played out itself. So let's jump onto the chart so I can give you guys a detailed breakdown into, again, exactly why we took this trade. See, GU is absolutely bullish on the daily. We have just been climbing and climbing and climbing on the daily for the past 21 days. So 3 weeks worth of climbing to the upside. And that tells us that GU is super bullish. So why did we take a sell? The theory behind this trade was that number one, we had a sweep of the previous day high. So that's number one. Then number two, we can see that we are extremely, extremely bullish. Of course, what goes up must come down, and we always have to have a retracement. So once we had this push and we took out the previous daily high, we then waited for price to also take out the Asia high. So we drop down to the 5 minute and I turn on my Asian session range. We can see that we had the Asia session range right here, and price absolutely blew straight through it, swept the high, and it ran all high with a lot of volume. And then as it got closer and closer to the high, it then started to slow down and the volume started to deplete. So then once we saw this nice 5 minute market structure shift right here, we then ended up taking our entry on this order block right there. And the price from there simply just collapsed. And it actually ran currently, it is sitting at a 1 to 6 risk to reward. We took profits right here just below this bullish demand zone that we had right here because we were anticipating a sweep of this liquidity and then for price to continue with its bullish trend after it's had this massive retracement. But price has just continued to fall. So at the moment, it's at a 1 to 6. My actual daily targets is that price should reach all the way down into this daily zone that we have all the way down here. So if price does reach all the way down there, that's going to be a 1 to 11 risk to reward trade. Now, I'm not actually holding this trade. I did close out my positions on my funded accounts at a 1 to 3. I held it a little bit longer to a 1 to 4 on my personal account, but full transparency, I have closed out all of these positions. But it's just nice to see that we did actually nearly catch the top of this big move down. And if I had held it, then this could have potentially been a 1 to 6 at the moment and a potential 1 to 11 should price continue to daily targets. So it's just good to see that my analysis is playing out and that I was able to calculate this correctly. Boom. So we've had a beautiful 3% gain on GU and now we're back in the profit. We started off the week a little bit slow. We took 2 losses, but there's one simple win, made back both of those losses and gave us 1% for the week. So again, this just shows you the power of sticking to that one strategy and just being consistent because it's going to yield you much greater results. And the simplest way to put it is that losses are part of the game. So let's jump into Friday to see what happened. The weekend is around the corner, so we're not actively seeking trades. We're 1% up, which is incredible. I was just waiting for the perfect setup. So as we can see, quite later on in the day, around 11:30, we actually got this EU buy limit that played out. So then I've sent this into the VIP group and we've actually closed it for a 1% gain, as you can see right there, putting us at a 2% gain for the entire week. So let's jump onto the charts and I'll show you why. You can see EU was super, super bullish. We've put in this higher low and then this higher high. Therefore, we understand that this demand zone is our extreme of the EU range. So we know that once we tap into this demand zone, we should anticipate some sort of reaction, and that is what we can capitalize on. So our anticipation for this trade was that we was going to sweep the Asia lows, tap into this demand zone, get a reaction to take out the Asia highs, and then that would be it. We would call it for the day. So let's jump down to the lower time frames so that I can show you what happened. As we can see, we actually ended up taking out the Asia lows, tapping into our area of demand. And then from there, we identified that price was putting in this series of lower lows, lower high, lower low, and then we had this lower high right here. So we knew that once price broke above this lower high, putting in a higher high, we anticipate a higher low, and then a continuation of that trend. So we had all of this understood. We identified the high time frame area of interest. We swept the Asia lows. Everything is falling into place. Once we've done all of this, we identified our fair value gap that caused the market structure shift, and we put our limits there. As we can see, price missed us by literally 0.4 pips, and it had this bullish push out. Now, we thought at this point that price is potentially not going to come back and tap us in, but we left the limits open anyway because to me, this looked like some liquidity. Price was going to sweep it, tap into this massive fair value gap, and then continue onwards. So once I saw that, I left the limits open. Price then chopped around for quite a while until it finally decided to come and tap us in. Now that was all the way at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So I set the limit at 11:30, and from there we've been tapped in 3.5 hours later. Again, this is 3 p.m. in the afternoon, UK time. This means we're getting closer and closer to market closing, and that means the volume is now starting to dry up. So we've tapped in and we've had this bullish reaction out. But from there, price just continues to chop around for quite a while. Once it starts chopping around, I then decide to tell everyone that we are going to close this position for a plus 1% gain because it's Friday, markets are closing soon, and the volume seems to be drying up. Literally, I think it was right here is where I told everyone to close out that position. And then as soon as we closed out this position, price then decided to dump again. So it was a very good call that we closed out this position because the volume just simply seemed to be drying up. And as we can see, if we hadn't closed out this position, price then decided to actually go and hit the stop loss. So we closed out right here for a plus 1% gain to finish off this week with a beautiful 2% gain on the account. And it just shows that being a trader is not always easy, but all you simply have to do is just stick to your plan. So here we are. We've ended the week. Friday is over and we're up 2% for this entire week. We started off the week missing trades, being negative, but we've ended the week being in the positive. Again, this just goes back to the simple understanding that sticking to one strategy and being consistent with your trading plan is going to yield you much greater results than jumping from strategy to strategy. So this just goes to show that every single day we show up to the markets with the same trading plan and we just simply hunt for that one beautiful setup that we can take, because if it hits, we're going to make profit. If it loses, we know that it's just a numbers game. So I hope this gave you guys a great insight into exactly what it's like to be a full-time trader. If you guys did enjoy this video, then please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.